haven't been here in a while. I remember I was sitting here a year and a half ago, February 20th of last year, when when I beat the base game of Pokemon Violet. Of course, that's all there was the base game at that point. And I want to talk about what that ending meant to me. I just you've seen how it affected the continuation of my playthrough. It delayed it considerably. Um, I was nervous. Uh, I started crying in the middle of gameplay one time because of the feelings I was having. And in the end, you could say it turned out okay. We couldn't change the past, but maybe we could change an alternate timeline. I see a lot of people misinterpret the crystal pool scene. They think that we gave the professor the book that ruined their life, but we really didn't. What they say does not in any way match up with what we knew about the professor from our world. And they gave us their copy of Heath's book. So, if that had been the one from our timeline, Arvin never would have been able to find the book at the lighthouse, and his dog would have died. So, I was playing Violet earlier. I was doing some shiny hunting up in Kitakami. I was at the crystal pool, in fact. There was an outbreak of Clefairies there, and then it vanished when there was sunlight. So, I like. But of course, we all know who my heart ended up belonging to. This very lovely print. I'll put the link in the description. AI Turo, and of course to a lesser extent AI Sada, but I did play Violet. And this I've never really been into robot media. I've appreciated robots in media. Android 16 is a really good one. Robo. There's this game I played called Magical Star Sign that had this character named Mocha, who was really cool. And he was very much a Robo sort. From Chrono Trigger, if you don't know. But I've always been a fan of characters who can overcome their programming and become something greater than they were ever meant to be. Just programming has never been so literal. It's characters like Cammy White from Street Fighter, Tara Branford from Final Fantasy VI, Piccolo from Dragon Ball. Characters like that, I that the AIs are just wonderful. And I feel like they really don't get the appreciation they deserve. Oftentimes they're lumped in as being interchangeable with their creators, and I don't understand that. They were very different people, and even though we never meet the real professors, the ones from our timeline, they were very firmly established as characters. And of course, it does bring to mind, could they have changed? The AI had their exact memories, could understand, and they still couldn't figure out why their creators would want something so horrible. And I think one of the points of the game is that compassion is inherently logical. It doesn't have to conflict. Logic and emotion can very much coexist. I've seen people say that the AIs aren't sapient beings, but they totally were. Come on, they totally were. This is a series that has given us ducks made of programming code for almost 30 years, since first gen. Are you going to tell me Porygon isn't a sapient being? Seriously? And I mean, I already appreciated a good Porygon. You saw my Porygon Z Geni take down Volo in my Pla playthrough. I am going to continue calling it Pla. You can deal with it. Uh, but I just, you know, again, I like Golurk. I think it's really cool that it can fly. And but Pokemon has always given us artificial life, and here they're giving us one that looks like a human, one that looks interchangeable from a human, but isn't interchangeable, especially with the human that they appear to be. The AIs get, what, 5 minutes of screen time, most of it in the elevator, as themselves before they get overtaken by the security system. And I just felt so bad for them. I just, and my heart really went out to them. I know, I remember in my playthrough, I had made comments during the next scene, where the kids are leaving the crater and walking together. I had made comments about like Arvin having to watch his dad's double die, but then I was like, no, that they didn't die. I actually like that scene where they're overtaken with all the crystals. As horrifying as that scene was, which honestly, that scene does qualify to me as body horror. It's consuming them. It's inside their mouths. Their eyes are glitching horribly, and the last thing they can think to say to us is, "You must run." It is horrifying, and yet I think that scene might have been the key to their salvation. If the crystals are growing that thickly in them, and there's still crystals clinging to them when they leave. So it didn't get knocked off them entirely. Um, you know, that's what powers them. And we learn in the DLC that getting a massive hypercharge from being exposed to too much terrestrial energy means that you never have to charge your orbs again. I mean, granted, you can only use them once per battle, but you never have to get them charged again. They just charge on their own continuously. So I think the AIs are going to be okay. But there is another problem. They're going to be alone. It it really seems the past paradoxes are from way farther before there was any human life, and the future just seems so desolate. And it just seems like even though they're not human, they would crave human attention because that's the species they understand the most, and they're going to be alive. And they're going to be alone for a very long time for the rest of that life. And that thought is just unbearably sad. I wrote a story where the machine brought them to the same place and they got to meet, and I honestly ship them really hard. uh, I have this is an official pin right here, and then I have this the way home. There's a SATA version of that. I can link that as well. It's on Etsy. Um, I I still get melancholy, even though I carry these things with me. I still get melancholy when I look at them. And I remember I had initially given Turo because I was working with very low spoilers. Like I knew these things are called paradoxes, and it was indicative that there was a time machine, etc., etc. But uh, I was working with very few spoilers, and when I first encountered Turo in that call in Clavel's office, I gave him a more go-getter voice. It was almost my Emmerich voice, but I ended up giving that to Clavel. Well, my Clavel voice is further down here like this, and a bit more tired, because, he's old. He may be high energy, but he's old. And so later on, I noticed during the calls after the Titans that Turo spoke very clinically, so I ended up giving him the same voice that I gave Ingo in my Pla playthrough, where it was very, very strange and very stilted. And I did this without knowing that he was a robot. uh, what's really funny though is the all these conversations are apparently indistinguishable from the real person because Clavel didn't suspect a thing was wrong. Arvin thought something was odd, but only once we got to the crater. Like, before that, even the call in the lighthouse where the professor refers to uh what is it? The great Professor whoever's glorious research. And Arvin just sits there like, freaking egomaniac. I get a feeling, really, of if this was indistinguishable from the actual person, and the people who knew them the best are fooled, the heck kind of person were we dealing with? Then, of course, you go back and watch the scene at the lighthouse with the realization that they're not referring to themselves in the third person, they're referring to someone completely different. And just, my heart goes out. And you notice every time they sign off, they do the farewell gesture. It's sped up, but it's the same gesture. I I never really felt the, the last character that really stuck in my head was so long ago. It was Cyrus, and we didn't have to wait for DLC for him. And sure, the AIs weren't in the DLC, but like I said, we did get the thing about the the Terra charge, and we did get the crystal pool. Although it's funny because it also gives us an even deeper part of Area Zero, and yet the AI told us to meet at the deepest part. It's like, okay, all right. I know you're under, um, probably under direct orders not to reveal the underdepths to anyone, but still. And it gave us the White Book, and there would not be anything in the White Book that would actually describe the world the professor was after. It doesn't describe a world where paradoxes inhabit the outside of Paldea with everything else. And neither does Heath's book. The White Book would have described the world as it is in the game. I know Briar said she had to make some changes and she embellished, but I even someone like Briar I don't think would have embellished that much, and we all know I do not trust her. Okay, she should not be trusted with the education of children. She should not be allowed in polite society. She should probably be locked up for reckless endangerment. I I don't think she would have invented a whole world, basically. And who knows? Maybe the other us who gave our professor the White Book would have bestowed, I don't know, maybe they're from a world that is very much like that. Who knows? Or maybe this was just the professor's delusion. They thought because paradoxes exist, they should inhabit the rest of the region. It would be nice if we got to read the White Book that our professor received. Because the Heath's book that we have is indistinguishable. There's no change. And then, of course, you have elements that are strictly there for gameplay. Like, if we shut down the machine, why do new paradoxes keep appearing? Stuff like that. I don't know. I'm just going to ramble. But that's what I like to do. I like to ramble about the characters I like, about the games I like, stuff like that. One of these days I need to make a video where I ramble about something else, like parrots. One of these days I want to have an Athena live stream. But story, for a while I wondered, and you guys have met my dad. He's in pretty bad shape. He's in his 70s. He is not doing too good. When I recorded that, because his birthday's in late February, I would have had that on my mind. But, and when he turned 60, I thought to myself, he's not going to live to see 70. But he did, so. And I thought, could that be it? Like, is that explaining why I'm suddenly latched onto this robot with almost no screen time? But then I realized, no, I just felt really bad for the robot. And I thought that the robots were so noble and deserved so much better than they got. They were the real heroes. We just did what they asked. And the world can't even know they existed. And they say autistic people don't have empathy. See, that's another thing. People talk about, robot characters being popular with autistics, and it just, like, I liked, Lieutenant Data. Is that even his title? I don't remember. Data from Star Trek. You thought he was pretty neat. But I liked other characters better. I don't know. I've never really felt like I identified with a robot character. And I guess the only way I really identify with the AIs is doing what's right no matter what. But, that's something we also get with Penny. And we get that with Penny to a much greater extent. And you saw my reaction to finding out what had really happened to Team Star and what they had really gone through. And I really thought that story was going to be the hardest this game was going to hit me. Like, even the dog didn't get me as much as the Star story. But after a whole game where we helped basically everyone we met, we couldn't help the AIs. We helped them achieve their goal, but we couldn't save them. And that... I've cried at these games before. I cried at the end of Moon when Lily left. But even then, we could call Lily. Might take her a few days because she's taking a ship to Kanto, but we could call her when she gets there. Catch up on how her journey's going, how her mom's recovering, all that kind of stuff. I cried in Pla when I was already on edge at the Exile arc. But when we're taken to Kagata and she tells us about the red chain, and I started bawling. I have that on video. Go back and watch. Although I was also, when they told us to decide who to team up with, I actually kind of got the impression that whoever I teamed up with was going to die. So I I was very mistaken there, and that might have been because of my heightened emotional state. But robots kid, it's a hell of a drug. Just to think that they can never really be recognized, they can't even be known about. So I had to start a fic where AI Turo was able to return, and I think the method I picked was, if a baby Terapagos can send someone to a parallel dimension for a few minutes, then a fully grown Terapagos in the distant future can send someone back in time to the same timeline. Yeah. uh, this series has handwaved much, much stranger things, so. And really, it's actually kind of sapped my passion for much other things. Like, I don't know when I'm going to get back to Obsession. Not this year, though. I'm taking at least a year off from it. I'm at chapter 38. Uh, Corbin has announced the construction of the H class, which is going to be the Hikokyu from the movie, and yeah, it's going to be left there for a little while. As you remember, I was supposed to write that chapter last May. I think I posted it in September, so it took me quite a long time. Uh, I've been writing Gakken Soku, which is my story about the AI returning. Right after I finished the game, I wrote the feature Between Us, which is about the incident and when Turo died and the AI's response, musing that if this was one death, then what would what would Paldea feel if paradise was achieved? I've met very good people through talking about these highly underrated characters. Uh, Shrimps, Yo Yo, I know you're going to be watching this. Um, Netbug, I hope you're watching this too. Once you finish the game, as of this date, Netbug has not finished the game. I told her that Violet has more robots, Scarlet has less robots, but still robots, and I think she's probably thinking, oh, they must have Golurk in this game. I mean, yeah, in the DLC. uh, I should probably go. I could talk about them for hours. How long is that? Oh my god, 23 and a half minutes. I could ramble about the AIs for hours and hours and hours. And I have, if you watched any stream after, or any recording I did after that point. I will finish the last parts of Violet. I want to do Ryfort's quest and thus finish the Paldean Pokedex. And I want to do Perrin's quest and finish the Blueberry Pokedex. I think I can finish the Kitakami Dex on my own because all I have to do is catch Fenzendipity and Okidogi. Um, Heck, I can do that tonight. um, or maybe I could read the book I got a little while ago. I don't know. I just feel so lost when it comes to these characters because I know these games are supposed to make you feel good. You know, they're supposed to give you a bit of a power fantasy, right? And helping as many people in the game as I could made me feel good. And then they hit you with you can't save the person who needs it the most. And I just hashtag the AI deserved better. I've been using that in my AO3 conversations and fics about them. I really hope they show up in Masters. I've said before, like, there's most characters I can wait for their reruns. If the AIs show up, oh, I will wail. I will wail like Primal Kyogre. I will wail like Gigantamax Wailord. You would not believe the lengths to which I would wail for the AIs. You know what would suck, though, is if they showed up but they were NPCs. Technically, they don't have any Pokemon of their own. They have the Guardian of Paradise, but then they left it behind. And, they wouldn't want to willingly wield that thing anyway. It killed their creator, and it will kill again if left unattended. So I'm gonna go. I want all other sad robot fans to join me in the comments section, please. Thank you for bearing with me for this long, and you know, there is only one way I can end this video. You know that there is only one way, and you have been anticipating ever since it began. Because until next time, I'm Blackjack Aviani, and I bid you adieu.